Hello, 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 hello. MAKI Studio is your portable production studio. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for being here. My name is Anthony Barocas. I am welcoming you all to today's BirdDog live session. And today we've got a very special show. Today we're going to be talking about one of the latest announcements from BirdDog, which is the MAKI Studio. And I'm very excited to talk to you about that. But before we get started, I always love to welcome everyone to the show. And remember, this is a live show. So if you are here live, then, hey, let me know where you're watching from, because you're here, I'm here, we're here together. This is not AI generated. This is actual people having a conversation. So feel free to throw into the comments wherever you might be watching this. Let us know where you're watching from. And also, remember that if you have any questions about the topic of today, you can ask them, because we're actually here at the same time. If you're watching this later on YouTube or something like that, then you can't ask questions. So the benefit of being here live is that you can throw questions into the comments right now. And no matter where you might be, including Andreas in Greece is letting us know where he's watching from. And that's open to everyone around the world who's watching the show today. The comments are live, so we'll bring them right into the show. So as we demo today's MAKI Studio, be sure to, whatever questions you have, throw them into the comments, and we'll do our best to take care of all of the questions as best we can. Hello from Guernsey, Channel Islands. Thank you very much. On Screen Creations, and of course PVE is in Seal Beach, California. Let's see what else we got. A more sensible time to live stream. It depends. We're trying to reach both Europe and the US, and it goes all the way across. But if you are in New Zealand per se, then this is also like crack of dawn in the morning. So we have this wide range of people around the world, and this is where we think that the good time to broadcast would be Sealy, Texas. But of course in Europe, all across Europe, like in Germany or Greece, it's now the evening. So we're trying to reach a lot of people with this show live. So that's why we picked this time. Thank you all for chiming in, letting me know where you're watching from. And also feel free to throw in what BirdDog gear are you most interested in. I guess a lot of you are interested in the BirdDog Live with the control surface and the software. So that is going to be today's topic. Let me get right to the announcement that you can win a 1 year BirdDog Connect subscription. Just go to BD or bit.ly/BD entry, or you can use your phone and shoot right here, take a picture, and this will bring up the form to fill out to enter to win. Again, this is available around the world. It's not a US only, it's not a Europe only, it's just around the world. So once you have created your account, that can be authorized to be a 1 year BirdDog Connect subscription right there. So that is available to everyone who enters. Let me see if anybody's entered so far. I know I just put it up on the screen, but let me see. Nobody's entered so far. So the first person that enters has a 100% chance of winning until the second person enters. Then you have a 50% chance of winning. That's how that works. So right down here, if you're watching on a particular device, bit.ly, bit.ly, bit.ly/BD entry for BirdDog entry. Try to make it as simple as possible for you to enter the contest to win a BirdDog Connect subscription. Dan says he's interested in BirdDog Live and how the audio works and adding audio to the software. So, CJ, put that on your list. Put that on your list. Hey, hello from St. Vincent in the Caribbean. I'm leaving the QR code up for people who are still joining and who might want to enter to win a 1-year subscription to Connect. And we also have Queensland, Australia. And I know when I interviewed Dan last week, in Australia, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So you got to wake up late or you got to stay up late. And for me, it just happens to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I'm in the middle. So thank you all who have tuned in to see today's show. Let's get to the news. Let me get rid of, let's just do this. Go here. Oh, I should probably be back on the first slide. That's what happens when you do a rehearsal right before the show. In the news, if anybody's going to Infocom, BirdDog exhibiting with NDI at Infocom. And if you're going, you get to experience MAKI Live and MAKI Studio in action at booth 3780. Today's going to be a very interesting show because we're not really going to cover a whole lot of other things. A lot of shows are about a bunch of different products. Today, we are really focused specifically on MAKI Studio. I mean, this is really a portable production studio in a box. You need an iPad. You provide the iPad. And, are we thinking here? You just need an iPad and the BirdDog control surface. Studio becomes a perfect companion to the MAKI Live cameras and a multi-camera live switch production. It's designed to let you control, switch, and stream a multi-camera setup from virtually anywhere because it's the control hub that brings pro-level storytelling to creators, educators, remote presenters, and mobile production teams without requiring a truck, racks of gear, or a huge crew. They can work with other NDI and SRT cameras, but it's a perfect fit for the MAKI Live. It makes multicam streaming accessible, compact, and wireless for people who want the look of a pro broadcast, but the freedom of a mobile-first workflow. MAKI Studio is the answer. It's your portable control room. It's easy to control with the control surface to switch and monitor multiple cameras, even via Wi-Fi. It gives you live production anywhere, anytime, with native NDI HX3 and the BirdDog ecosystem. It can deliver ultra low latency, automatic discovery, and seamless IP workflows. The MAKI Studio enables you to easily manage multiple sources in real time. And again, it's perfect for streamers, educators, churches, event video teams. It also has built-in streaming tools to help you go live to YouTube, Facebook, or any custom RTMP with no PC required. It has an intuitive user interface and auto configuration features that make it easy for anyone to use with no video engineering degree needed. It's lightweight, of course, iPad and a control surface, and you can pair it with MAKI Live for a complete 2 to 3 camera setup with ease. So here you can see flexible streaming and recording options. It's affordable and scalable. And the best part is the professional control surface that's part of this. So without further ado, I know that a lot of people are here specifically to see this thing. So I have CJ Farrell, a senior product manager with BirdDog, here to show us this fantastic tool. And one of the things I want to cover first is that there are bundles available if you're interested in both the Studio and the MAKI camera. So let me bring CJ on right here.
Hello.
So tell us about, first of all, like the bundles that are available. Like if you want to get, if you don't have a kit, if you're a church and you're interested in this, and you want to say, okay, I want this control surface. We have an iPad, and we want to do a couple cameras. That's all available as a kit.
Yeah, so good to see you again, Anthony. Happy to be on here. We
Thank
have a
you.
couple different options for MAKI Studio. So right now, you can basically buy MAKI Live, which is our small portable battery operated camera, and we've really kind of seen this as an opportunity to pair with MAKI Studio. We'll do a full demo today and show you that MAKI Studio is not just for MAKI Live cameras, but for any BirdDog camera or any NDI HX camera. But right now with the bundles, you can essentially get our MAKI Studio control surface. And then if you buy that with 3 of the MAKI Live cameras, you'll get those bundled together for a discount. And so we kind of want to say, do you want to have 3 cameras, throw this down, Wi-Fi, iPad, control surface, and you have an all-in-one bundle to purchase there. You can also just purchase the control surface and MAKI Studio individually if you'd like, or you can purchase the MAKI Lives individually. So it's kind of up to you on what kind of production you're trying to do.
And people have been asking since it was announced, when is it available?
So exciting for that. So in terms of MAKI Studio, we actually have the first batch of control surfaces leaving the factory at the end of this week. So they should be showing up basically to people, can confirm in the next week or so, depending on how far away in the world you are from us. I'm over here in Australia, so that's where most of them are coming from in terms of over on this side of the world. So it might take a week or so, but those will be shipping essentially next week. And then the MAKI Live camera that has started shipping actually last week, and we are now filling through all the back orders. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks here, we should have people start to get their MAKI Studios and MAKI Lives in hand.
So, this is like on the way. We can basically say it's on the way.
Some of them, I believe some people have already gotten their MAKI Lives. So those have landed officially. And then MAKI Studio will be basically in the next week and a half.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I see some questions coming in, and I want to remind everyone that this is a live show. I see, people watching. I see some people asking questions, and if you have a question as we go through this, write it into the comments, and then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So feel free to just jot it down when you think of it, put it in the comments, and while I'm thinking of that as well, let me go back over here. Just a reminder that we do have the giveaway. So if you're just joining us, you can go to bit.ly/BDentry and scan to win for a 1-year BirdDog Connect subscription. And then if you have a phone, you can just point it at the screen. You could do it that way as well. So I don't want to take up too much of the time with the housekeeping part, but I know people are here to see this because there's been a lot of interest. I've been asked a lot about this because I kind of handled this. I discussed this market a lot on my network, and people have been like, control surface and the software and how does it all come together? So I am going to let you take it away, and I'm going to shrink off to the side a little bit and watch.
Yeah, cool. Let's jump into it. So on my screen, when we flip over here, so I'll show you guys. This is the setup that I have. So we're going to do this all live. I do have the control surface in front of me. I have an iPad, and so we're going to show you guys how to launch MAKI Studio from the ground up. So right now, MAKI Studio, the way it works is it is a free iPad app. So if I launch this will bring us into the application. Click over here. So you should be able to see my screen now with MAKI Studio.
Yep.
And the way that this will work is this is a free app to download. And users, when they do this, they will be able basically be able to bring in some cameras. As soon as they try to bring something into program or preview at the top, so here's a camera into preview, and then here's a camera into program. So as soon as they do this, it's going to ask them, where is your BirdDog control surface? Okay, and that is where this will come in as essentially the hardware key to unlock the software. So people might be confused. They can download the MAKI Studio app. The control surface right here, that is what is going to unlock the app to use. So think of it as kind of a hardware dongle to use this. So the control surface, though, I really think, though, takes it to the next step. And yes, you could, use all these touchscreen commands, but I think having, a physical switcher, something that you don't have to be staring at the screen to switch through cameras for anyone who's done live production. It's nice to, you're usually locked into the content that's going, and you don't want to have to worry about, looking around and fumbling on a touchscreen. So it is nice to have a tactile surface here. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through how Maki Live works. So in this, I have my favorites tab. On the cameras here, you can actually use the iPad camera. So here I am right in front of you. That is my program window. And then we'll go ahead and show you guys adding in a camera. So right here, I do have on cameras 2 and 3. These are 2 Maki Lives that are behind me. I have this one Maki Live actually just right above the desk, which is showing the control surface, which is really cool. Is this is like not even a foot away from the control surface, but it has a nice wide angle camera, so you can see that. So it is a very handy camera to be able to do POV shots like this. You can also do other NDI sources or SRT sources. So you can actually see I'm doing a desktop capture with the free NDI tool. So here's my computer screen. I could go to like a Maki Live web UI. So you can do a different NDI source into this. It doesn't have to be just a Maki Live camera. Now we'll go ahead and show adding in a regular camera. So I do have a X1 Ultra behind me. So I'll go and show you guys adding that into this as well. So if I flip this over, and I'm going to have my 5th camera become X1. So if I hold and click and I go to settings, this is going to look for RTSP sources, SRT sources, or any of the NDI sources on my network, right? So I do have 2 Maki Lives, I have an X1, and then I have vMix, and then iPad capture that you're seeing the software right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this top one, which is an X1 behind me, and then I'll hit back, and then I will press and hold, and then I will press enable. And then you can now see there is a camera behind me live, and this is a normal BirdDog PTZ. So this is how you bring in any camera that's on NDI into your production. And probably one of my favorite things is that with MAKI Studio, everything is built in. So if I were to click and hold this tablet, you actually still get your PTZ control. So if I click into this, you can actually control all the cameras right on the iPad without needing a separate device. So like you can actually do presets. So if I press 1, this will go to a preset shot. And you can, move around the camera if you want as well. So it's really nice to be able to do that.
Very nice.
And I think probably my favorite little feature that's hidden, will probably make this more obvious in the future, but if you press this little house or the home icon above the zoom slider, it'll actually take you to the web UI of the camera as well. Oh. So you actually have the web UI built in, and you could go into your camera and control settings right there on the fly.
It's very handy for white balance. You go into a location and they got some mixed lighting.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So it's really nice to be able to just quickly log into your device and actually get those granular controls. Now you can also do things like in Maki Live, we have a separate app for that, just to flip to that real quick. So you can actually see, here's my other cameras operating. So in Maki Live, you can also go into the setup and you can control all the settings in here as well. Or you can also go over to the web UI of Maki Live as well. So there's like basically limitless ways to control your devices now in this NDI world, which is pretty awesome. Flipping out of that, so if I go out of here, once again, you have your white balance, your focus, your zoom settings, all that good stuff. And then now that I have kind of almost a production here, I have 2 Maki Lives, I have a screen capture and a regular PTZ camera. If you press this little heart button, this is basically a favorite, and this is what's going to bring it up into kind of your main station for where your production is going to live. And then the thing that you're going to want to do is you can then use the control surface, and these numbers are going to assign what button is to what button on the switcher, right? So if I want to pull up, let's say shot 2, which is my screen capture, if I press 2 in the preview, it's there. If I press cut, I go over. If I want to pull up that bookshelf X1, I press 4 on the keyboard. And then so basically you can switch as you want and put these in the order that you desire. If you want to switch them around, and let's say I want that X1 PTZ, you press and hold, and you can just drag it around. And now that is button 3 on my switcher. So it's very easy.
You were reading my mind, because I'm like, well, how do you change the order?
Yep. So, and then we're working on as well as being able to do like picture in pictures. But yeah, so any of the camera inputs, you can just change the order under this favorites tab. If you flick into here, it's going to be the way that you add them. So actually, if I press let's say number 4 here, that goes to my desktop capture. Number 3 is the overhead shot. So basically, whatever layer that you're in MAKI Studio, that's going to talk to the control surface and control it.
Okay.
So if I flip back into my favorites, I also have a picture-in-picture on button 6 you can see at the bottom. So if I press 6 into preview, here's a picture-in-picture that I set up, and you can do actually picture-in-pictures in MAKI Live as well, or MAKI Studio as well. If I press number 7, you can even do picture-in-picture fades. So you can go in between picture-in-pictures, which is
with DDE moves.
Yeah, which is great, and you do have full customizability of those picture-in-picture squares, which we'll dive into here in a second. So that's kind of your basic way of maneuvering the inputs on this for switching with the control surface. And then if we scroll down to picture-in-picture, this is where you can actually do customized picture-in-picture inputs. So here's a ton of presets. You can change the background of this as well. This is just one of the sample ones we have. So if you come into press this button and go to full screen background, you can actually choose a preset that we have, or you can do your customized PNGs for like your company or school background. So
can you give us the program view and do that switch between preview program?
Yes, good call. Yeah, so I also have an NDI output coming out of MAKI Studio. So if I flip over here, you should see, let's see, hold on, let me turn it on. So start. And 1 second. So you should see, there we go. So now my MAKI Studio is outputting NDI as its program feed. So you asked, there's the transition. So you have full control, and this is actually now as if I was doing a actual production here. So if I go back to favorites, go back to 1, and now we are doing our production.
Very nice. I just wanted to see that move full screen, because I think that that really shows off the fact that it is nice and polished.
Yes, good call. I totally forgot to even start with the NDI output. I figured that'd be easier for you guys to see. On the output side of MAKI Studio, and I'll flip back to the iPad here real quick, you do have some output options. So I hadn't started my NDI output, but if I click in this on-air button, you do have 3 different streaming destinations, and you can see I'm actually doing an NDI HX output. Now, one thing to note that's awesome about this is, in addition, I'm going to hit stop here. In addition to HX, you also have full NDI output. Right?
Oh, okay.
So this is important because with our X1 and X5, those can actually decode NDI HX.
Right.
So you could actually have your X1 decode the program feed from MAKI Studio if you wanted, built in. Whereas a lot of other software switchers on PCs, it's only going to be that full NDI option. So this actually has the license built in to do that.
Okay. And then I saw on that previous screen, you also have recording. So what kind of recording settings are on here?
So right now it's pretty basic, but you can do H.264 or H.265, and then you can either just record straight to the iPad storage, or you can also choose where you want to save it on the iPad. So we're working towards like external drives as well, if that is available. Right now, you basically, whatever drive the iPad can see, that's where you would save it to. So it's basically meant for local storage right now at the current time.
Yeah, I know from having used other iPad software, anything on an iPad is sort of limited to what iOS lets you do. And there's certain restrictions to that.
Yes, it does have a lot of benefits, but yes, it does have sometimes its restrictions. But I feel like in terms of this, you do have, it is important to note, it is like a 1 ME switcher. So whatever you're recording, that's what your program is. So it is whatever's in that top right, that's what's going into the recording as well as to the live stream outputs.
Okay, here's the next question that I always get asked of any piece of hardware that I'm talking about. Are you able to encode the recording at a higher quality than the stream?
So right now, if we go into settings, you do have your stream settings. So under this, you have all the options here. This is just 1080/30. Here's my stream settings. So you do have that video bitrate option there. So right now we're at 6 megabits for that. For the recording right now, it basically is going to mirror it. We're looking at doing it, but basically whatever this setting is, it's going to copy that bitrate.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so let's go ahead and flip back to the camera. So talked a little bit about picture in pictures. So you do have the full customizability in this. And just to show you real quick, editing these, it's really easy. If you press and hold and click edit, you can actually move these around. It's not just like a preset thing. You can actually slide this around wherever you want. And you can, fully customize what that picture in picture is going to look like. It's not
Wow.
just a basic template pusher.
And I see there's even a bevel function, so you can have them at an angle, like they're looking at each other.
Yeah, if you want to get a little creative, you can click on a guy. And granted, I'm not great at this. You can go a little crazy here and do some different angles if you want to get creative. So that's the picture in picture. So it's pretty full fledged for a software picture in picture manipulation.
Yeah.
Moving along, we do have our movie tab, which this is going to be just any file that's in your storage. You can bring that up into the folder. You can create different folders to look. So this is MAKI Studio. You can create albums. So if you wanted to have a show, you could make an album of movies or videos to play. And then like this is, you can actually see these are clips from NAB when we were demoing this iPad. So once you go over there, press cut, and it's going to play whatever video you're looking at. So that's kind of how the movie function works. Into pictures, this is where you would basically load any PNGs that you wanted or photos. You can see some people were messing with the Illustrator app here, which to note, if you are on a live shot and on the top right, you click pencil, this will actually go into a full-fledged telestration mode, which is going to be awesome for anyone doing like commentary or sports. You can actually come into here and you can live telestrate on the iPad.
This is the button I'm pressing right here.
Yeah. Yes, you can say, yeah, we've all seen that on the NFL in different sports shows. You can basically show them what you're doing. You can clear it. And whatever you write, as soon as you're doing this on the program feed, as you can see, if I hit back, it's just going to clear it off, and then I'm resumed back into my production.
Right.
So and think of it as you could have, two MAKI studios. You could have someone here sitting here doing their own little production and Illustrator feed in addition to someone who's doing the main production. So there's a couple different ways that you can use Studio. Don't think of it as you're locked into this one iPad. You can connect a couple of them together, which is another fun thing about NDI.
Right.
Moving through, you do have different transition options. So I click here on auto. This will go through my different transitions. You can do page curls, a lot of fun stuff. Ripple here. But this will basically be tied to whatever you want as the transition. You also have cut on the screen here, as well as on the iPad on the bottom right on the control surface. So if you cut through, that'll go back and forth. You also have a super foreground. So this one is if you want to do moving transitions. So any type of video file, if you chop it up into PNGs, you can do this. And then if you hit super foreground on the top left here, and then hit auto, it'll do a moving transition.
Oh, so basically like a sports stinger.
Exactly. So you could do your own custom logo. And then you can also, with these plus and minus, as well as up here on the top right duration, you can speed this up and slow it down. So if you wanted to do like a 5-second transition, if you wanted, you could do that there. So on the fly, you can choose what the transition speed for that is.
And I do want to point out, like a lot of people might not notice, but the fact that the control surface has both cut and auto. So,
yes.
and I find that's really essential when people are dealing with videos. You want to fade out your live content to the video as opposed to just cutting hard. Mm-hmm. And to have both of those available is something that not a lot of software tools have, because, looking at this is sort of like an all-in-one production tool that has a control surface. The fact that it has, let's just say you want to compare this to like a Black Magic control surface switcher, having cut and auto. So fade is always available, or whatever you want to do, as well as cut is always available. So I think that's very, very, a very good thing to have.
Yeah, I think for sure, cut, is going to be your bread and butter, right? And then anytime you want to do anything creative, that's where auto and fade comes in. And then also, having that T-bar, right? Like if we want to manually do this different animation, we can do that on the T-bar, and we could leave it, paused. The T-bar gives you that full manual control over that transition that you're doing. So really between these 3 buttons here, you got kind of everything you need.
Right.
In addition to that, we'll move kind of into the graphic side, which I think this is probably one of the biggest strong suits of MAKI Studio. You actually have 3 dedicated graphics layers here. So we have a titler, we have a URL and NDI titler, and we also have a PNG logo for bugs. So starting with the title, and I'll flip back here to my iPad. If I go into title, you can actually do a custom titler. So any fonts that you bring in, you can actually do that. If you hit plus here, you'll get some templates to use. And if I click this and I click and hold and hit edit, you can actually manipulate this text however you want. You can choose the different fonts of it as well. And it's basically a full-fledged, you change what it says here.
It's a built-in titling tool.
Yeah, and then any font that you have, you can use for this. So if you have a specific company font, you can bring that in and use that. So I created a couple dummies here the other day. I have like this MAKI Studio. If I click this, this is basically loaded up in my queue. You can do a double tap if you want to bring it into live. If you have this as orange, it's basically sitting ready to go. And then back on my control surface here, if I hit title on, that's what's going to bring it into program. So you could have this sitting here, title off, and you basically have a hardware function to bring in and out graphics.
Right.
So the other cool thing is, so that's a basic title that we can do. You can do multiple, you can switch through. You can actually tie them together. So that's probably one of the coolest things to me is you don't have to have one individual title. You can actually combine them and bring 2 in at a time. So here I have BirdDog MAKI Studio. If I click one, I can actually bring them off and on one at a time, which is, I think, pretty incredible on an iPad. So it's basically a couple different layers. And then once I hit title off, I'm good to go. The other thing that's nice is, so that's the title layer, right? So a lot of customizability there. The other thing that you can do is out of this, you can actually do like a snapshot to make it as a PNG logo. So if I come in here and hit edit, and then I just click this little logo button right here at the top, this will actually make a snapshot as a logo. So now this bird dog, let's see, so I made, so this bird dog is my logo. So if I wanted to have this sitting in the whole show, if I hit logo on here, that's now just going to live as I'm switching through different cameras. So if I go back to here, now BirdDog is just going to sit there the whole time. And I'll show them program. It's going to sit there the whole time as an icon.
Can that bug be an animated GIF or an animated PNG? Because I know some people that do sports, they'll do like little sponsor things, and to have that thing just looping through, that would be handy for them.
So you can do that for sure as like in the NDI and the URL titler. I'm not actually sure. I need to test that with the logo because right now it's just a PNG that you're looking at here. So under this, if I hit add, it's basically looking for a file that you're choosing. So actually, that's a good question, Anthony. You might stump me there on the first one.
That's my job.
I need to try a GIF or a GIF to see what that does. But I'm pretty sure it's just solid PNGs. If you want to get into something more advanced, so we did title, we did the basic logo, and then you also have probably the most powerful thing, which is URL titles. And so this is if you're using something like Singular Graphics, which I think I was messing around with here and logging in, you could actually bring a graphic live into this, which is a pretty powerful thing. So if I flip over here to my screen, let's see. On this, so like if you were to bring in a titler here, you could actually bring in animated graphics live into the iPad that's controlled from something like a Singular to use. So that's one of the most powerful things is you can have a third party bringing in the graphics into MAKI Studio.
Right, and one of the things that needs to be said about web graphics is there's 2 key things with that. Is that first, you're able to offset the graphic work to someone else. And the second thing is because they're coming in over the web, that someone else doesn't have to be wherever you are. They could be at home in another city. and they're, they could just be watching the stream, seeing the sport, or you have, internet communications via some chat at this point, and they could be like, get ready with, so and so graphic, and they call it up, and then, go graphic.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So like here, I just signed in. You can actually see on the bottom left, that's that little Admiral thing. So if I flick this over and then hit U title on, there's my URL graphic live. So if I flip over to the program, so you can actually see this is something that I could edit now on the fly. And bring in and out. And then you can choose the same, you can choose to fade it in or bring it, from a certain direction. But this unlocks the third graphic layer, like you said, to have someone from a different location control this.
Right, because one of the key advantages of this kit is the fact that it is so lightweight and portable, but also you're not lacking functionality because you could have someone else at home doing the graphics live as part of your show. They don't have to be part of the, what's on location.
Yeah, exactly. So it is really powerful to have those different graphics layers because I come from live production and I used to struggle, and not to throw things under the bus. I used to struggle with using some ATEMs and trying to incorporate graphics and different types of picture-in-pictures with them. It was pretty limiting. So it is cool to see at this price point all these features for the graphics and the picture-in-picture customization.
Absolutely, absolutely. Plus the fact that there's 3 different types and they can all be executed separately.
Yes, that's the amazing part is because on this control surface, you do have the dedicated buttons for that, right? So like if I flick this over, you do have the dedicated titler, you have URL or NDI, which we're working on partnering with some different companies. I know we've been messing a lot with like New Blue to do NDI titling. So you have that graphic layer and then this logo, which for anyone who's done live streaming, you're usually just going to have that logo sitting up there taking up space the whole time of the show. So it's nice to have 3 dedicated buttons for that. Moving through the last buttons of these, so we talked about the super foreground, which is the animated graphics for transitions. We also have a scheduler, so you can actually do automated switching. So if I click this, it'll actually start switching through my cameras. Right now, I have it at a 4-second interval to switch. You can change that and you can say, do I want to switch in order? Do I want to switch randomly? And I'll flip over here to show my screen here. You can actually see this little counter on the right side of the screen going up. And so this is really nice if you're trying to do automated testing before a show and want to make sure you go through all your cameras, make sure everything's there. You can actually do this automated scheduler in MAKI Studio. So you can say go in order, go random, just cut between them. So that's kind of a nice thing if you want to just automate some switching for maybe testing, that your signal's good on the receiving end of the stream.
Right.
So that's scheduler. You can also just do a program reset, which will clear off everything. And then you have the picture-in-picture T-bar, which that's to go between those picture-in-pictures that we were looking at earlier. So if I click here, picture-in-picture T-bar on, this will give you actually manual control over that transition if you want to switch between that. So we talked about, you mentioned it's cool to see them squeeze and fade to transition, but you can even do that on the T-bar.
Very cool.
Yeah, so almost through most of the tabs on this, back to the iPad. So those are your titlers. You also have some preset music. You can add your own MP3s into here as well to do bumper music if you want. And then I know we had an audio question, so now let's go to the audio mixer. On this, you basically have a full-fledged audio mixer for your inputs.
Wow.
So this is individual controlled. Right now, if the NDI camera has audio on it, that's going to show up on this. Obviously, for this show, I have everything muted just because I didn't want to mess everything up and say, where's that crazy echo coming from or something like that. But so you can unmute and mute right here. And one of the nice things is you do have snapshots. So let's say I have my cameras and I want them at like a lower level. If you press this snapshot button and say preset 1, that's your snapshot. And then if I want to, let's say, raise them up and save as preset 2, then with these little buttons here on the top right, if you click, it'll actually go between the 2 presets.
Very cool.
And then on the control surface, you also have that button. So if I flick over to here, You also have the control to be able to press the button right here at the top. Let's go back to audio mixer. And if I press this little button up here, this will also go between those presets. So
do you need to be in the audio mixer for those scenes to be enabled?
No, you do not. Good question. So as soon as I'm firing these off, it is switching. It's just that's the visual to show you guys switching.
Okay.
So it is happening, I promise. But yeah, in order to you can be on any tab and fire these presets. So that's a good question.
No, I can definitely see that useful in so many circumstances, like you're doing a corporate event when people walk off the stage, boom, mics are muted, and things like that. And then people walk on stage, mics back up, and you can have somebody else mixing the mics, but you want to kill the input from the audio mixing board into the switcher here.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you're coming in and out of videos, you want to kind of have a preset for that. You do have, so this is movie is your video slider right here. So if you're playing content, you could have snapshots for that. You also have the separate music file. So you can have videos and movies playing as two different audio files. You have your program right here. And then probably the most important one is this mic input, which there you go. Oops, let me mute that back. This right now is the internal iPad. And one of the big questions we get, and we've been messing with different solutions for this, but you can bring in audio interfaces into this as long as the iPad can read them. So I know we had some guys in a show over in London that were using a Focusrite, bringing in the audio through that. So if you click on this little arrow, it'll tell you iPad microphone, but you could also switch it to an audio interface. And this is going to be kind of the main way I think people will bring in audio. If it's not embedded on one of these cameras, you'll bring it in over that mic input. And probably the most important part before people ask is on that audio input that comes in, you do have a mic delay control for that, right? So, because that's always going to be faster. So if you want to delay that audio coming in from an external mixer or whatever device you're using to bring that in, you can delay it to match up and sync. And then last, we do have audio follows video as well for the inputs. We're working on making this a little bit more feature rich, but essentially if you're going live, it's going to turn that camera on or off in terms of the mute. So you do have basic audio follows video as well if you're doing all your mics embedded on cameras. So that is an option as well.
Right. And I know from working on vMix, I've done audio follows video, and there's sometimes, and I don't know if it's possible on this one, but I'm going to show this other content, but I, as the host, I want to still be able to be heard, and I would take my little window and I'd scoot it way off to the corner. So technically, it's still in the shot.
I'm still here, I promise. Yeah, no, it's audio files video is fun, but it isn't a crucial thing, I think, for live switching, right?
Yes.
So we need to make sure that was involved. And like I said, we're going to work on making it even more feature rich as we go. And then last to touch on, in this, you can actually see my buttons are lit up here, and these are corresponding to what is muted and unmuted. So these right here, if I'm in this audio tab, you can see channel 2 is live, channel 1 is live, and if I press this will mute them. So you do have individual control on this control surface to mute and unmute your audio mixer as well, if you're on that tab. So that's
very cool. So the control surface is not just video; it's video and audio and scenes and kind of titles. That's very innovative in terms of it's not just a video. 1 through 6 is used for other things depending upon what tab you're in.
No, for sure, yeah. And it even has this little scroll wheel right here, and that can be used to navigate through these as well if you don't want to touch, if you don't have access to the iPad. This iPad also can do, and I don't have it set up in this demo, which I probably should have done, but you can also do a program HDMI output as well. So if you want to have a bigger screen and not just staring at this little iPad, you can actually either have a screen copy, so whatever you're looking at here, you can look on a HDMI output, or you can have the program out in this top right window be live as well on an HDMI capture or an HDMI screen.
Right.
And then kind of to wrap it up in terms of the settings, you do have your different stream destinations. So you can have Facebook and YouTube RTMP, we already talked a little bit about the bit rate. You can do NDI groups, you can do discovery servers, and then this is where you would say, do I want to, what we just talked about actually, you can display the HDMI output or mirror the screen. So it's kind of up to you on what you want to show to a secondary screen.
Right, right.
And then we have the unlock functions. Like I said, this is a free app to download. Once you basically plug in this surface, that's what's going to unlock this software to fully use.
All right.
So yeah, that's basically the full run through of MAKI Studio. Did I miss anything, Anthony, you think?
Well, I don't have it yet, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't know if there was something that was missing. So
Sorry. We will get you. We will be getting you one for sure.
but I'm happy that you have one. We did have a couple questions here. Let me see if I can rearrange this a little bit. There we go. Let's see. First question is, can I stream directly from the control surface? I believe that answer is yes.
So define.
Oh,
so the control.
not,
Yeah,
yeah.
so the control surface is just think of that as a hardware tool for the iPad. The iPad is the thing that is streaming. So whatever you're setting up, the iPad is the thing that is streaming out. So the control surface is just kind of a hardware tool to use and unlock MAKI Studio. It's not actually streaming from this hardware. I can't hold it up from this hardware controller. It's happening from the iPad.
So I think the key thing to understand is if you're coming from the ATEM world, the control surface is the computer, and if you're looking at this, the control surface is a control surface.
Yep,
and
exactly.
the iPad is the computer.
Yes.
Next question is, does it work with other cameras? Well, you've already just demonstrated one of the X series, but honestly, if somebody already has, let's just say a Mevo Start or something like that, it does NDI. Basically, it is NDI compliant.
Yep. Yeah. So full NDI or HX, it'll pull those in. So you can do other PTZs. And as we kind of showed at the beginning of the stream, if you did miss it, you can go back and watch. We did go through the PTZ control on this. So as long as it does NDI control over the PTZ, you can control the PTZ as well in the software if you want.
And I think another key point is the fact that it is NDI based and not specifically cameras. If you have a Flex and you want to hook it up to a DSLR or a large sensor camera or something like that, you put it on NDI, you put it on the network, it comes in.
Exactly, yeah. So and you could do like a 4K HDMI and do a loop out to an ATEM, and you could have the other signal coming into this as like maybe your graphics or your secondary stream machine. I used to do live productions with ATEM and software switchers side by side, doing like an iMag production, doing a stream production. So you can really customize with NDI. It really unlocks bringing stuff in and out. I think I showed earlier as well, I'm doing like a display capture on my computer here just with the NDI tools. So you can do flex input, you can do screen capture. It's really kind of up to you on what tool you want to use.
Now you said something very critical there, and I think, I'm going to jump on, but I'm sure somebody's going to ask a question too. Resolution capability, is it HD? Or you said 4K?
Did I say, sorry, I meant the 4K HDMI, the converter, the hardware converter is what I was saying. So in this right now, it is HD only. So you can do, you can do video mode for 4K, but we recommend that if you have a new M series iPad. So it does have, here I can flip over. These are kind of the options here. This is in the video mode settings. So if I click here, these are your options for it. In terms of the streaming though, so this is like you can record in 4K. For the streaming, YouTube and all that's pretty much going to restrict you down to 1080, but these are your video mode options.
Okay, so it will actually produce in 4K.
If you want. Usually for those, it's going to strip down your camera flexibility very fast. Like I think it's like 3 camera inputs. And then, like I said, you're going to want to have one of the new M series chip iPads as well.
All right.
Yep.
Next question comes up is the processing happening on the control surface or the iPad? I think we covered that one already.
The iPad, yep.
And I think, can I use just the iPad? And you've answered that one already too.
So yeah, so you can use the iPad to like try it out, bring an NDI source in, but it will not be unlocked until it pairs to a control surface. The control surface just needs to be powered on, and then it connects to the iPad via Bluetooth. So think of it as like a hardware key that you're using.
All right. Here's a question. Does the control surface need power or does it have a battery?
It does not have a battery, but it's only a 5 volt, so you can actually just plug it into a laptop or something separately, which I do in the office all the time. If you don't, the other thing, and we'll be working a little bit in terms of trying to qualify, but like if you have something like a USB-C dongle with all the bells and whistles for like the HDMI output of the iPad, power, maybe for an audio interface, and then bring it into the iPad, one of these is going to basically be your solution to bring multiple things in. And then you could also use another port to power the control surface as well.
I see. All right. Andreas asked that, and then we get that one question again. Here's a good one. Can I bring a guest into the studio like a Zoom?
So right now it does not have like a baked in Zoom protocol or like I know vMix has their vMix call. So essentially though, with like Zoom or something, Zoom does have NDI outputs. So if you have Zoom running, you can then bring those NDI outputs into Studio. But no, Studio does not have a dedicated call plugin. If that answers the question.
Right, yeah, and that's a key thing. Like Zoom now supports Zoom and Teams both support NDI, so you
Hmm.
can, with the right level of service, you can now export NDI out of a Zoom room and things like that, and it'll show up as this. And then you can export that NDI feed from the switcher as a webcam source into the Zoom, so that everybody's watching the program out of that.
Yep, exactly. You can get pretty creative with the workflow there.
Bowls promo asks scoreboard and replays.
So right now it does not have replays. Scoreboard, I think that's going to be one of the slam dunks for this thing, especially with URL graphics. So we're working with a couple different companies right now in talks with getting them integrated. There's several companies that are doing URL graphics for scoreboards. So
Just a bunch.
if you have someone if you have someone sitting on a phone, they can keep score on the sideline, and then you can bring in what they're doing into your production with MAKI Studio with that URL graphic input.
And I know, because it's a question I've had in my other shows often. There's actually third-party companies that do scoreboard software, so that if you subscribe to the service, you can actually like go to a stadium or football or whatever, and whatever's on that scoreboard is already integrated into the web. You're just paying for the access of the data, and it comes in. So there's that as well.
Yeah, the scoreboard data stuff is really cool, and there is we're talking to a company right now that they're doing a device that basically like will take what is happening physically on the scoreboard and then copy it into a URL function, so you can have your Daktronics scoreboard keeping in the stadium in conjunction with a URL output as well. So that's where that lives with MAKI Studio.
And the next question comes up. I expect the iPad will also work with a MacBook.
That is a good question. So we are looking at that right now. That would be a Dan question because he's been messing with it. I'm the Windows user in the office, so I know we've messed with putting MAKI Studio on the Mac, but I don't. There's definitely some things to work out. I don't know if we'll be able to do it yet, but we are looking at the possibility. So can't confirm or deny at this time.
Yep. And then you just mentioned someone who happens to be watching the show. Dan says hi.
Yeah.
Gary says that we're looking good. Oh, here you go. Can you break out the pencil so I can use it with my TriCaster? Send the TriCaster output to pencil. Technically, I think you could do that because you would just take the TriCaster out. Even one of the MEs via NDI. Do the pencil on it, and then send the output of the pencil back into the TriCaster.
Absolutely, yeah. You can ingest it, and then have someone sitting there as a dedicated telestration person, right? And then like you said, their output can come out of NDI, or you could send it out RTMP to something if you wanted to, if you're doing like really remote productions.
Okay, I've got a technical question just popped up. Is there a way that if Starlink or cellular internet drops down speed without using third-party machines, not losing frames or lower internet speed by itself?
So I'm assuming he's talking about like variable bit rate.
Or bonding.
Yeah, so like we're looking right now at a couple options to maybe do with like cellular into the iPad, to be able to stream. Right now, something I didn't mention, that is cool about Studio with like and this might be a tangent, but with the Maki Lives, you can actually pair 3 Maki Lives directly to the iPad over Wi-Fi. And then in addition, you could hardline to like a cellular bonding router, or to a hardline network. In today's show, I have Wi-Fi going on, and then this X1 that's behind me is actually just plugged into a dummy switch on a fallback IP, and I have that going into my iPad over an Ethernet connector. Um, so a little bit of a tangent, but there's options to bring different things in. And then as far as the bit rate, you can customize the bit rate for it, but there's not like an intelligent frame drop detection where it'll, crank it down. Whatever's happening on YouTube, if they see your bit rate comes lower, YouTube and Facebook do their thing where they'll crunch it down and say, not enough data receiving.
Right.
But there is potential to do like cellular in terms of the iPad to stream.
Right, and I think there's things outside of this particular software, because somebody could run Speedify on their iPad, because that is something that I've done years ago, back in 17 and 18. We ran Speedify on the iPad with another, switching software on the iPad, and that's what did the bonding. It's just that you have to be careful in terms of like that takes processing power, and while the M chips are more powerful, there's only so much processing power in a tablet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there's a bunch of different bonding solutions out there. You can go, to the big boys like LiveView and TView. They can provide cellular bonding if you want, but there's a lot of different companies. And when I was at NAB, I actually went up to a couple different ones just to see what's out there. And there was a lot of startups, should I say, that were doing like cellular bonding, boxes, chips, things like that. So that's definitely going to happen outside of MAKI Studio.
Right. So yeah, again, it's a switching tool. It's not necessarily a bonding device.
Yes,
So
we couldn't solve everything, but we tried. With the graphics layers, I was like, we threw everything in the kitchen sink at it. But there's only so much it can do, and then being on an iPad, there's only so much. It does what it does, and you can use a lot of other third-party things to enhance what you're trying to do.
Well, CJ, I appreciate you being here. I know it's early for you being over in Australia, but I think you did a fantastic job walking us through all the different layers, all the different pages of things that it can do. I know there's probably, things that are still even a little deeper and getting into the little nitty gritty. And, maybe we'll do that in a future episode. But I think this one really gave everyone a really good overview of all the different big features and the functionality that the control surface provides to make it easy to access those things without, as you said, having to constantly look down and tap your way through, on the touch screen. You can just keep your fingers on there and just access it directly.
Yeah, it's definitely how it should be. And we'll have more video content coming soon. As I mentioned, in about 2 weeks is when these will be starting to land. And we'll kind of have a full video series coming out showing a little bit what we talked about, but also some granular, step-by-step tutorials for different things.
Right. I think some people really need that. Some people maybe like us who have been in production for many years, we can take to this a lot faster than somebody who's new to it. And it's like, well, how do I do this and where do I do that? So those tutorials I think will be a lot of help. So again, thank you very much. I have a giveaway that I want to do.
Yep.
So let me let you go. And I am going to put this up here one more time. If you are late to the show, you can win a 1-year BirdDog Connect subscription. Now, it used to be cloud because it would just go through the cloud, but now there's even more tools. There's more capability, more functionality. This was another announcement at NAB, and we're looking forward to doing a show on this to tell you about all the different things that Connect can do as well. But this is a 1-year BirdDog Connect subscription. If you're looking at this, you can type in bit.ly/BirdDog entry, BD entry. Or if you're looking at it on another device, you can use your phone and just point it at the QR code. enter to win. I do have several entries in already. I'm putting out, I don't want to let anybody who came in late miss out on this. So I apologize those people who have already entered. It may decrease your odds of winning, but to be fair to everyone who has tuned in for the live show, I'm putting this up here at the end to give people who came in at the tail end of the show the opportunity to potentially win 1 year BirdDog Connect subscription. So going to leave this up here for a second, and then we're going to give it away during the show. So again, if you're watching this after the fact and the show is not live, you don't have to worry about entering because this has already been given away. That's part of the benefit of being here live, is the opportunity to ask questions, to interact, to really have that information, and then also the chance to win. So I am going to, what if I just go down here? Yeah, that goes away. So here we have the entries. I am going to, let's see, I wanted to move this over here. I am going to grab all these names. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to go over to the Wheel of Names for the BirdDog live session contest. I'm going to paste all these names, and then I'm going to click in the middle of the wheel, and we are going to see who is the winner of today's show. Looks like it's going to be Wayne. Congratulations to Wayne. Thank you for watching the show, and I do thank you all for tuning in, asking questions, being part of this. I know it's very exciting to see BirdDog really growing capability for NDI connected products and making things even more accessible to end users like me and you. Oh, I'm going to move my cursor the other way. And I'm going to take that off. Tune in next time. We're looking to do a show on the Connect, BirdDog Connect, so that you can find out even more. And I bet you there'll be a lot more entries to win BirdDog Connect when people find out all the different things it can do. So till next time, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you then.